Hello, welcome back to Behind the Faders, the live sound channel. Today I want to tell you a story about my favorite way of touring these days and how I even noticed that it is my favorite way of touring. Over the decades, I have been doing any kind of touring there is, I guess. I did the dirty little punk clubs, I did the little bigger clubs and the mid-sized clubs, and I slept in youth hostels, I slept in vans, I slept in cheap hotels, and I slept in some strange vehicles as well. Little side story here. Around 95, I was working for a German funk band called Spice. And right before a tour, their manager told me that he arranged for a sleeper bus for that tour. And I was very happy about that. I mean, we usually slept in really shitty hotels, so I thought a sleeper bus would be nice for a change. And I had been touring on sleeper buses before, so I was really looking forward to it until I saw the bus. You know, usually a sleeper bus is a coach converted into a sleeper coach. Not this one. This was a city bus being converted into a sleeper bus. So they just left the first couple of rows of seating in, and they took out the rest of the seating, replaced it with the cheapest, most uncomfy, and probably most dangerous bus beds I've ever seen. And not only that, right beside my bed, there was the back door, and it was still functional. So when I was lying in bed and somebody tried to get out of the bus and pushed the wrong button, so the button for the wrong door, then the door right next to me opened and I was exposed to whoever was standing in front of the bus. So it was not very pleasant. And on one occasion, I saw the top model of that company, which was the same kind of bus, only they had welded the body of a VW bus on top of it. Okay. And the name of the company was Beat the Street from Austria. So a few years later, I was doing front of house on a huge festival in Germany. And during a break, I was walking around backstage, and all of a sudden I came across this fleet of brand new, black, shiny, Cetra sleeper coaches. And the name on their site was Beat the Street. Today they are one of the biggest tour bus companies in Europe. And I think they're now even trying to break America. But that's how they started. The irony behind it is, while I had to survive their first attempt building a bus, I never got to travel in one of their really luxurious, nice new buses. Never happened. Anyway, so I did all this touring on every level, up to arenas and stadiums. And my biggest tour was the European leg of a Metallica tour back in 2007, where the crew didn't even have a bus. We had a plane because we did one gig per country. So we had to fly anyway. And so somehow the production figured that renting a little plane for the crew instead of buying tickets for everybody was probably cheaper. Very nice experience though. So in between all these touring and the festivals and the shareholders meetings and the trade shows and the corporate shows and the TV shows, whatever else I was doing, since 20 years, every so often in between those things, I was touring with a German comedian. His main technician was a friend of mine, so I stepped in every time he wasn't available for like maybe 3 or 4 shows, and then nothing for many months, and then another 2 or 3 shows. And I never really thought much about it, but in the first couple of years, I was not comfortable with it because I was used to working in a crew, and my responsibility would be maybe mixing front of house and miking parts of the stage or something like that. And I didn't like the idea that I had to do sound, I had to explain the lighting to the local lighting engineer. I was responsible for tuning guitars and set them up on the keyboard, and I had to do the props, and I had to care about the dressing room, and I had to drive around by myself. I didn't really like that. Plus, I had to know the show, and all the playbacks had to be started at the right time, which that's another thing. I was never really comfortable until today having to care about playbacks. This is because of the times when playbacks were really unreliable, when you had CDs or DAT. So until today, I'm not really comfortable with starting playbacks. So all that came together, so I didn't not really enjoy it a lot. Even though the artist himself was the nicest man on the planet, so he would never have blamed me for any mistake I would have made. In fact, quite the opposite. He kind of liked things going wrong during the show, so he could kind of build a spontaneous joke around it. But obviously, I don't like making mistakes. Now, fast forward to 2022, the year after COVID, really. His main technician got really, really sick, and we all knew he would be away for a good while. We didn't know how long it would take. It turned out it was 6 months in the end. So I agreed to step in again, even though that year, I mean, this was after COVID, and the phone rang on a daily basis asking me if I was available for this job or that tour. But I rejected that all because I had a certain connection with, of course, my friend and the artists. So I stepped in for half a year. So for the first time, I did many, many shows in a row, and I got more and more comfortable about it. And it was less and less trouble. Until one day, I figured, I think this is my favorite way of touring right now. And this is why. Let me tell you about a typical day on that tour. So I'm no early bird whatsoever. So I would wake up like at 9 o'clock in usually a 5-star hotel, sometimes less, but a good hotel anyway. Then I would have breakfast. Then I will have another hour or so to care about whatever I have to do on my laptop, do my social media work for my studio and all that kind of stuff. Then you usually have to leave a hotel at 11 o'clock. And the routing on these tours is usually done in a way that I hardly ever have to drive more than 2, maybe 2.5 hours. So if I'm in a nice place, I still have some time to do some sightseeing, because I have to arrive at the next venue usually around 2 p.m. Although, having said that, I like to be there like 30 minutes in advance for no particular reason. It's just me. But I still might have the time to check into the next hotel. Then I get to the gig and we start working. I always have one local helper, which is usually the local sound or lighting guy. So I start working, let's say, at 1:30, and it takes me, from unloading the van with setting up everything, it takes me usually 90 minutes without being in a rush, without hurrying, to be soundcheck ready. So now it is around 3 o'clock, and now I have another 1.5 hours to do whatever I like. So now the artist comes in, and we have a coffee, we talk a little, and then we do our sound check. And our sound check, I'll have proof for you later on, lasts usually between like 3 to 5 minutes. Unless we are in a really difficult room, then it might take a little bit longer to figure it out. But it's really usually 3 to 5 minutes. After that, we go for dinner, usually in the best place around. That's just part of his policies, part of his contracts. Always very good hotels, very good food. After dinner, we go back to the venue, and now we wait for the show. And this is part of the day is, I don't know about you, but for me and for many others that I know, this is the worst part of the day. Don't really know why. I mean, I understand it if when I'm maybe a little bit nervous about a show, because it's a big show or a complicated show or a premiere, anything like that. But on this show, I'm not nervous anymore. But it's still the worst part of the day. Then we do the show. It's 1 hour, then 20 minutes interval, another hour or so, and then I do the loadout. And usually the loadout lasts between 30 to 40 minutes, and then I'm gone. Drive into my next 5-star hotel, hit the bar, have a glass of wine or two, which I usually don't even have to pay for, and go to bed. That's a typical day. And for me, having been through all these other types of touring and not needing this street credibility anymore, this is really my favorite way of touring. I just have no trouble whatsoever on this tour. So let me show you around a little on this tour. This is the bus I'm driving around in. Of course, it belongs to the artists. It gets replaced every couple of years for the newest model. Has like, I think this one has 6,000 kilometers, something like that on it. It's automatic and AC and everything that you can expect. So this is how this little production looks like. From the front, it's local PA, it's local lights, with the exception of those two little truss columns that I have with me. But everything, the monitors, that's all local. So what I bring is the instruments, microphones, DI boxes, and I also use local mic stands, mic cabling, and a local network. So this is the rack that I have with me. Here's my plug box, my Rio, and on the back, that's my down to primary switch, which combines the Rio and the Accent receiver, which is right down here. The rest is just drawers for my stuff. At one point I was thinking about getting rid of some of the drawers and include a plug box into that rack, but in that case it would become really heavy. So here we are on the stage. This lectern is always also something I bring. This machine is called an instant replay. You might haven't seen one of these, but way before SSD hard drives were a thing for computers, this was an SSD playback machine. And it's just rock solid. I never heard a single story about one of these failing. And still we have a spare. This is my headset with the Accent transmitter, and it's a DPA. I can't remember the model name, but it's a Cardio 8. Here we have two guitars, a 6-string and a 12-string, and my little board with two DI boxes and two tuners, and a bit messy cables. I don't know. This mic is for vocals, of course. It's the Accent Shure mic with a KSM9 capsule, and we have the same capsule over here, wired for our Carvite keyboard. We use a grand piano if we have one locally, but if not, we always have this. I'm trying to film the sound check because I consider it probably the fastest sound check in the world, although there's no Guinness Book record about that, but judge for yourself.
Wenn du was sägen willst und du entdeckst im Werkzeugschrank, Hammer, Zange, Schraubenzieher, allen Scheiß, nur keine. Okay? Ja. In der Bahnhofsgaststätte sitzt seit Stunden schon ein Mann. Als Rette gekleidet mit Krawatte sitzt er da vor seinem Bier. Er sieht fein. ist ein sehr kalter Tag, irgendwas um minus 15 Grad.
Oh. Ne?
Autos als Meilen von grauem Metall, Gehupe, Gezeter, Unrast überall. Der Weg durch den Nachmittag leicht einer. Die Sonne verneigt sich neben zielenden Bergen, das rote Blätter kündet von Vergehen. Okay, dann habe ich noch ein Mikrofon. So, das ist mein Ohrenmikrofon, damit kann ich mit den Leuten unterhalten, obwohl ich gar nicht hinter dem Mikrofon stehe. Eine wunderbare Technik. Und wenn du sagst, dass das alles gut klingt, dann machen wir ein bisschen Krach und dann sind wir eingeschaltet. Das wollte ich genau hören. So, dann mache ich jetzt ein bisschen Krach.
Tanz zusammen mit mir, zusammen die ganze Nacht.
Also,
Jo, danke.
danke, dann lasse ich das Mikrofon nämlich wieder rum nach hinten. Tschüss.
So, was that quick or was that quick? I mean, I admit, of course, it's not always that easy, but most of the time my settings work, and if I have a dry room and a well-tuned PA, it usually just works like this. And that's what I wanted to tell you today. I hope you get some takeaway from it, one way or the other. If you have comments or questions, leave them in the comment section, please. If you have a lot of questions, consider booking yourself a coaching call, even if it's just for 15 minutes. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. Still, like up to 80% of the people watching my channel haven't subscribed, and it helps me so much, and it's just a click for you. That doesn't cost you anything. So that's it for today. Bye-bye.